So, when I say the four horsemen of the apocalypse, what comes to mind? Probably conquest, war, famine, death, right? The end of the world. But what if that's not it at all? What if we've been looking at it all wrong? Today, we're going to dive into a really fascinating interpretation that completely flips that script. Yeah, what if these legendary figures, these horsemen, what if they aren't about some big, external, end of days destruction? What if instead of being about a global catastrophe out there, they're actually about a journey in here? Something deeply personal, deeply spiritual. The big idea here is that the four horsemen, they're not bad omens. They're actually a kind of symbolic key. You could even call it a map. And this map, well, it unlocks a much deeper way to understand the four Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. It's this incredible connection that ties the very end of the Bible, Revelation, right back to the beginning of the New Testament. Okay, so here it is, the complete map. I know, looking at it like this, it might seem a little complex, but trust me, we're going to walk through this piece by piece. You can see how everything lines up. Each beast from Revelation links to a seal, which links to a horse, which links to a gospel, and it all points to a specific way Jesus is revealed. It's like this amazing puzzle, and I promise, by the time we're done, it's all going to click into place. All right, let's dive in. First up, the first seal. This is where we meet probably the most famous of the four horsemen, the one on the white horse, the one we usually think of as a conqueror. So in Revelation, the scene is set. The Lamb, who is Jesus, opens the very first seal, and then you hear one of the four living creatures, one of the beasts, call out, "Come and see," and boom, a white horse appears. It's a super dramatic moment, just loaded with symbolism. So here's how the puzzle pieces fit together. The first beast is described as a lion. And what does a lion represent? Royalty, right? The king of the beasts. Well, that lines up perfectly with the Gospel of Matthew, which is all about presenting Jesus as the promised king. So this rider on the white horse, he's not out for a military conquest. His conquest is spiritual. It's about conquering sin, death, and hell. Not with a sword and shield, but with his word and his blood. Okay, moving on to the second seal. This is where things get red. The rider on the red horse shows up, and yeah, our minds immediately go to war, conflict, bloodshed. A red horse comes out, and its rider is given a great sword to, get this, take peace from the earth. I mean, on the surface, that sounds absolutely terrifying. But if we stick with this new lens, the meaning changes completely. So the second beast is an ox, or a calf. And in ancient times, what was an ox? It was a symbol of service, of hard work, and of sacrifice. And where does that lead us? Straight to the Gospel of Mark, which is all about portraying Jesus as the suffering servant. So that sword, it's not for a physical war. It's a spiritual one. It's the sword that divides soul and spirit. It represents that really tough, personal cost of choosing to follow him, that moment you have to leave the old you behind. And this lines up with something Jesus himself said, right? "I came not to send peace, but a sword." It's not a call to violence. It's about a choice. The sword he brings is that sharp line he draws in the sand. It creates a division between your old way of living and your new one. It's a really deep spiritual idea. All right, on to seal number 3. This one brings out a black horse, and its rider is carrying a pair of scales. Now, traditionally, this is the part where everyone thinks famine, scarcity, economic collapse. So the third beast calls out, "Come and see." And John sees this black horse with the rider holding scales. And yeah, in the usual reading, this is where it gets really grim. But again, let's switch back to our Jesus-centered lens. The third beast, it has the face of a man. This points us directly to the Gospel of Luke, which really emphasizes Jesus' humanity, calling him the Son of Man. So with that in mind, those scales, they're not for weighing out tiny portions of grain during a famine. They're the scales of justice. And in this story, Jesus, as the perfect man, willingly gets on those scales. He takes the weight of all our sin on himself to balance them. It's about substitution, not starvation, a huge difference. And that brings us to the fourth and final seal. This is the one that, let's be honest, sounds the most terrifying of all. The pale horse, with a rider whose name is literally death. Yeah, the description is just chilling. A pale, sickly greenish horse. Its rider is death, and hell is following right behind. It really feels like the absolute final, unavoidable end. But this is where this whole interpretation delivers its most powerful twist. Because the fourth beast is a flying eagle. An eagle is a symbol of what? Divinity, majesty, something that soars above the earth. This connects us right to the Gospel of John, the gospel that shouts from the rooftops that Jesus is the divine Son of God. So you see what's happening? What looks like the ultimate defeat is actually the setup for the ultimate victory. Jesus as God doesn't just get killed by death. He walks right into death's house, goes down into hell, and comes back out triumphant. He turns the whole thing on its head, defeating death from the inside. Okay, so now that we've looked at all the individual pieces, let's pull back and see the whole puzzle put together. And here's our map again, but now it all makes sense, right? The lion shows us Jesus the King, for Matthew. The ox, Jesus the servant, for Mark. The man, Jesus the Son of Man, from Luke. And the eagle, Jesus the Son of God, from John. It's not four horsemen of doom, it's four incredible revelations of who Jesus is, each one giving us a deeper picture. So what this lens really does is it changes the entire focus. The apocalypse is no longer some future event that happens to the world. It becomes an internal journey that happens inside of you if you choose to follow this path. It becomes a deeply personal roadmap. You meet the king, you make this sacrifice, you let him balance the scales, and through him, you find victory over death. So I'll leave you with this thought. The word apocalypse doesn't actually mean end of the world. Its original Greek meaning is an unveiling or a revelation. So knowing that, how does seeing the four horsemen this way change the meaning for you? Does it stop being an ending that you have to fear and become a beginning that you can embrace?